what you've done to me! How dare you accuse me! Stop it, both of you, please.
The marble floors of the Hawthorne estate reflected the crystal chandeliers hanging 30 feet above them, making every step inside the mansion feel as though someone were walking across frozen light. Every servant moved carefully, almost silently, knowing that one careless mistake could earn a sharp rebuke from the estate manager. Yet despite the mansion's grandeur, there was one person who never seemed intimidated by the wealth surrounding her. Emma Carter, the newest maid, carried herself with quiet dignity. She arrived every morning before sunrise, tied her plain gray apron around her waist, tucked a loose strand of dark hair behind her ear, and completed every task with remarkable precision. She never complained, never argued, and never joined the gossip exchanged among the other servants. To most people she looked like an ordinary woman trying to survive on a modest salary, but there was something unusual about her calm eyes. They carried the weight of someone who had survived storms no one else could imagine. The older housekeeper often noticed that Emma instinctively scanned every room before entering, memorizing exits and windows as if it were second nature. She assumed it was simply anxiety from poverty. She had no idea those habits had once kept Emma alive. The estate belonged to billionaire entrepreneur Richard Hawthorne, a self-made business magnate whose technology empire stretched across 3 continents. Although newspapers described him as cold and ruthless in business, the household staff knew another side of him. Richard treated his employees fairly and insisted every worker, from gardeners to chefs, receive health insurance and generous bonuses. Unfortunately, the same kindness could not be said for his fiancée, Vanessa Sterling. Beautiful, wealthy, and raised in privilege, Vanessa believed respect was something purchased rather than earned. She measured people by designer labels, expensive jewelry, and family names. Servants, in her eyes, were invisible until they made a mistake. That afternoon the mansion buzzed with preparations for an extravagant engagement celebration. Investors, celebrities, politicians, and international business partners would arrive within hours. Every flower arrangement was inspected 3 times. Silverware gleamed beneath polished lights. Crystal glasses stood perfectly aligned. Emma quietly arranged fresh lilies along the grand staircase while the other maids rushed through the corridors carrying trays and decorations. She worked with practiced efficiency, barely noticing the expensive guests already arriving outside. Vanessa entered the ballroom wearing a custom-made ivory gown worth more than most people earned in a year. Diamonds sparkled around her neck as photographers followed her every movement. She expected perfection, and when perfection failed to appear, someone would inevitably become the target of her frustration. Her sharp eyes landed on Emma. "You," Vanessa snapped, pointing across the ballroom. "Come here." Emma calmly placed the flower vase down before walking over. "Yes, ma'am." Vanessa looked her up and down with open disgust. "Who hired you? That uniform looks wrinkled. I ironed it this morning." "Then buy a better iron." Several guests chuckled softly. Emma remained silent. Vanessa disliked silence because it denied her the satisfaction of winning arguments. "I asked you a question," I answered respectfully. The calmness irritated Vanessa even more. Without warning, Vanessa grabbed Emma by the collar of her maid's uniform. "I'll teach you how to present yourself." Before anyone could react, Vanessa yanked violently. The fabric ripped from shoulder to waist with a loud tearing sound that echoed through the ballroom. Gasps filled the room. Emma stumbled backward, instinctively pulling the torn fabric together. But it was too late. A large scar stretched diagonally across her shoulder and chest, disappearing beneath the remaining cloth. It wasn't an ordinary scar. It looked like the kind left by explosions or battlefield injuries. The room fell silent. Even the musicians stopped playing. One elderly guest narrowed his eyes. "I've seen scars like that before." Another military veteran standing beside him whispered, "Impossible." Vanessa folded her arms smugly. "Oh please. Everyone has some dramatic story nowadays." Emma slowly adjusted what remained of her uniform without showing embarrassment. Her face revealed no anger. Only sadness. "I'll change into another uniform," she said quietly. She turned to leave. Then someone spoke. "Wait." The voice belonged to General Marcus Hale, a retired decorated military commander attending Richard's celebration as an honored guest. He walked forward slowly. His eyes never left Emma's scar. "I know that scar." The room became even quieter. Vanessa laughed. "You know every maid now, General." Marcus ignored her. Instead he looked directly into Emma's eyes. "Operation Crimson Valley." Emma froze. For the first time all day, genuine emotion crossed her face. "You shouldn't say that name here," she whispered. Richard, who had just entered from another hall, stopped walking. "What operation?" Marcus looked stunned. There were only 12 survivors. Emma lowered her gaze. "I was number 13. Vanessa rolled her eyes dramatically. "Wonderful. Now the maid thinks she's some kind of soldier." Nobody laughed this time. Marcus's expression darkened. "You should apologize." Vanessa frowned. "For what?" "For humiliating someone who once saved dozens of lives." The ballroom exploded into whispers. Richard stepped closer. "General, what exactly are you talking about?" Marcus inhaled slowly. 10 years ago, during an international humanitarian rescue mission, an entire convoy was ambushed. Intelligence failed. Communications were destroyed. We believed every civilian volunteer was dead. He looked at Emma. "Except one." Emma quietly shook her head. "It doesn't matter anymore." "It matters," Marcus answered firmly. Richard stared at the scar again. "What happened?" Emma remained silent. Marcus answered instead. "An explosion trapped 23 children beneath a collapsed medical shelter. Every trained soldier was pinned down by enemy fire." He paused. One civilian volunteer ignored every order. The room listened without breathing. She ran into the burning structure. Richard's eyes widened. Marcus continued. "Twice. 3 times. 4 times." Each sentence landed heavier than the last. By the fifth trip, the roof collapsed. He looked at Emma's scar. That scar is what happens when steel beams fall across your body while shielding children. No one moved. Several guests looked at Emma with disbelief. Vanessa forced a laugh. That's ridiculous. She's a maid. Marcus replied coldly. Today she's a maid. His voice hardened. But once, she was the bravest person I've ever met. Emma finally spoke. General, please. I promised your commander I'd tell the truth if we ever met again. Richard looked completely speechless. You mean? Marcus nodded. The woman cleaning your floors received the nation's highest civilian medal. Emma closed her eyes. I returned it. Why? Because everyone I tried to save deserved to come home too. Silence swept through the ballroom. For the first time in years, Richard saw tears forming in the eyes of General Marcus Hale. Then Richard noticed something else. Emma's hands. They were covered with tiny faded burn marks. Old injuries. Years of pain. Yet she had never mentioned them. Vanessa suddenly felt the attention shifting away from her. She stepped forward angrily. I don't care what fairy tale this is. She pointed at Emma. She's still just a maid. Emma slowly met her eyes. No. Her voice remained calm. I'm simply someone who chose peace after surviving war. Those words settled over the ballroom with overwhelming force. Nobody applauded. Nobody spoke. Even the photographers lowered their cameras. For the first time in her life, Vanessa Sterling felt the uncomfortable sensation that perhaps she had humiliated the wrong person. And she still had no idea that Emma's greatest secret, and the reason Richard's late father had personally hired her years ago, had yet to be revealed. Subscribe to my channel.